welcome to episode 225 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is January 14th, and together with Robert and Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone. So in the last episode, we talked about the new mirroring capabilities in Microsoft Fabric and SAP. We also talked about the platform aspect and how partners can build integrations and offer their SAP expertise in this context. To kick off now some new examples, we have two partners today with us that will talk about this integration. But before we go to there, let's hand it over to Ulrich to kick us off. Ulrich, maybe again, you can quickly introduce yourself and then introduce the topic quickly.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ulrich Christ. If you saw the last episode, you might recognize me. I might have changed a bit in the week since we did the last recording, but I'm basically the product manager in the Fabric organization responsible for SAP connectivity. So all topics SAP are basically in my responsibility, and that's what I care for. And therefore also this mirroring topic, especially with SAP sources, is something I drive and where I collaborate with partners a lot on the open mirroring topic, which we discussed last week. So as Holger said, today we're basically showing the solutions which two of our partners have already built and are currently rolling out, and we're basically going to introduce the partners. We're going to see a demo. We're going to discuss those solutions a little bit, and we hope that you're going to enjoy this. So maybe to recap and briefly set the scene, let's take a look at my slides here. So this is the diagram which I showed last week around open mirroring, right? So open mirroring basically works in the way that we have split the mirroring process into two pieces. The first piece is basically about getting the change data feed out of SAP and landing the data in a landing zone. Change data feed means initial snapshot followed by change data, right? Change data indicated as, each record with a marker, whether it's an insert, update, or delete. This is one part of the first part of the process, landing the change data in a landing zone in Fabric. And then we have the mirroring engine, which basically takes these changes. Of course, the changes have to adhere to a certain format. That's exactly what these partners have done, right? They basically followed our specification of how we expect the change data to come into the landing zone. And then the mirroring engine takes the data and merges it with sync. So every insert which you get on the landing zone, which we see in the landing zone, will be turned into an insert on the sync table. Every update will be performed as an update there, and every delete will basically result in a deletion. That's how open mirroring works. And as the name indicates, this is something which is very, very open. We have a specification for what we expect. We have a couple of APIs which these partners have to call. And now today is kind of the proof point to really indicate that this works end to end. And I'm going to hand over to Philip from DAB, who is one of the partners who have implemented this, actually the first partner to get ready with this integration, who will in a minute show you the solution. Maybe before I hand it over, here you see the list of partners which we're currently working with. You see a couple of names. Among them here is DAB, and Philip from DAB will now take it from here and show us what they have built based on our platform, combining our platform with their SAP skills and SAP expertise, which they have accumulated over many, many years. And I'm super curious to see the DAB solution and then to discuss it with you.
Yeah, thanks for setting the stage and introducing me. As you can see, the logo you see on Ulrich's slide, today I'm doing quite some logo placement, so just to be honest with you in the future.
No worries.
For the future minutes. Who is DAB? DAB is a company now older than 20 years. So we are 21 years on the market and based in Deggendorf. And in Deggendorf, we have a University of Applied Science, the Deggendorf Institute of Technology, which is just when I look out of my window, opposite side of the street. And our two managers from today were once students at that university and thought, okay, it might make sense to build something to get data out of SAP. Okay. That was more than 20 years ago.
Not a bad idea.
Correct, as we were seeing that a lot of companies are facing quite some issues to get data out of SAP. I mean, every one of us did like an SE16 extract, right? You go into SE16, then export something with an Excel file. And when you want to do this daily and merge all the stuff, that's horrible. And so we developed our first connector the DAB exporter, where we exported data from SAP. And yeah, the older we got as a company and the more we also tried to connect with bigger technology partners, et cetera, we developed our product more towards like an end-to-end solution so that it doesn't just pull out data and that's it. We have now the platform DAB Nexus, it's called, where we can pull data from out of your SAP system and push it into platforms such as Microsoft Fabric. And let me start with a very, very simple graph, which shows you how we are actually doing the extraction. A very easy graph where you can see that we have our platform DAB Nexus in the center. And that means that all the management of the extraction, etc., is set out of SAP. And this has one important reason. We want to take as much load from the SAP system so that you don't get any problems with your IT. And also that you don't need to perform any adjustments on the SAP system, any configuration on the databases or whatsoever. You do all the definition of your packages, we call them extraction packages, outside of SAP. So if you have more than 100 SAP systems, you don't need to go in 100 databases and set some stuff up front, etc., which gives you a lot of effort.
Maybe Philip, to interrupt with a question here, that basically also means that from a user and persona perspective, you don't even need a user in the SAP system to configure this extraction. You probably connect via kind of a technical user from DAB Nexus to the backend tool, right? But basically you have your own user management and everybody who has permissions to use DAB Nexus is capable of extracting data in a kind of self-service manner, right? So no
correct
knowledge from that perspective needed. I mean, of course, you need an understanding of SAP data.
Yeah.
So SAP knowledge is needed, but from a persona perspective, you can actually separate this from user management in SAP.
Correct. We can take a technical user and connect with a technical user to the subsystem, but we can also make it in a way that if you really want to separate stuff, we could also have, also for one system, several accounts set up so that if you are the responsible for HR data, that only you get the HR data and not the generic user. So we take the authorization concept from SAP systems into account. And I think this is very important when it comes to IT security and data privacy. So we are based in Germany. Yeah. These are two things we know pretty well. Then one other important thing is the RFC add-on. This is our own RFC function module, which is also SAP certified, and which we have been developing and improving over the past more than 20 years. And so this has an own namespace, and you can just simply put it onto your SAP system with the same transaction, for example. So if your SAP basis knows what to do, I would say 15 minutes, then create a user with reading permissions to the tables you want to extract, another 5 minutes, and that's it. So in 20 minutes, from that perspective, you're ready to go. And DAB Nexus can be outrolled as an Azure managed application, so you don't need to do your own installations on your own systems.
Maybe another question from my side, Philip. You say on the diagram that you support SAP ECC and S/4HANA. Which versions do you support? Is that only for on-premises installations, or are you also certified for RISE, for example?
Exactly. We're also certified for RISE, so not just on-premise versions. And we also have the first customers who are part of the RISE program who are now testing the solution. And so far, it all looks pretty nice.
But that's actually really cool. So the footprint on the SAP system is really minimal. It's just this RFC add-on, which is in its own namespace. And
Correct.
Then I can even run DAB Nexus as an Azure managed installation.
Yeah. It's available through the Azure Marketplace, which also means if you want to test it, everyone can just write me an email and we can give you a private offering with a free trial. And then the application is deployed automatically. You just need to configure the connectivity, etc., etc. But
that's actually so. Let's say my SAP system is running on Azure, then I guess I can even do VNet peering or something like that, so that I have a close connection between DAB Nexus running on Azure and my SAP system running on Azure.
Correct. The more you have on Azure, the easier the whole process will be. I think we can post also some technical links in the description of the video. So if you're interested, you can just go down below the video and you will find a link on how to set this up. Yeah, so we have now the left side, the SAP system. We have DAB Nexus, which does all the configuration of the packages, etc., and which starts the data extractions, etc. And then we push the data into Microsoft Fabric. And here we can natively talk to the open mirror on the one hand, the Fabric Lakehouse, and also, which was also announced on the last Ignite, SQL on Fabric. So these three possibilities are natively possible to connect to from already now on. So this is already inside the product as a supported feature.
Awesome.
So with that said, I don't want to show you more boring slides. Let's just jump directly. I have an announcement with one of your colleagues in 10 minutes. So let me show you the product itself. So this would be, you can see that we have already done some mirroring. Here we have a daily run, which will be running shortly. But we will go into the hardware. We build the packages. And here you can see we can have one package which we can connect to several different SAP systems. And the good thing is we can even connect more or less an ECC package to a HANA system if the tables are still available as CDS views, as we can pull this. So it's much more easy for you if you are on a program to switch from ECC to HANA at the moment.
Maybe just for my understanding, maybe for the audience, when you talk about a package, that's kind of a configuration of what tables you want to extract, how you want to extract them with filters or potential joins or whatever, right? So it's the definition of what you want to extract and land on the Fabric side.
Exactly. We are at the moment in the package studio, and here we have a package for a delta load for purchase to pay. And on the left side, you can see all the tables which we are going to extract in that specific package. And you can also have one package which you run in different cadences, so hourly, daily, and shortly also real time. So real time will be our next feature. Which will be coming as well in Q1 of this year. Now I want to show you a little bit of the functionality of Delta, because as you are the audience who knows SAP pretty well, you also know the problems on how to avoid change data capture, which we know it's not supported officially anymore by SAP since the last year's note. And to get current data almost real time. And with that, I can also show you the functionality we have. So on the one hand, we have filters. Filters you can have as an input filter. You can set a fixed value, a lookup filter, which pulls, for example, all your company codes, and you can just select, and as well a fiscal year filter, which calculates itself. So you can take filters to your tables. And what we have built here now, it looks very complicated, but when I explain, it's very simple. Here we have a virtual table, the echo table, so the purchasing document header table. And we want to now get all the data which is newly created, for example, yesterday, and also which was changed yesterday. And therefore, we at first load all the key fields, purchasing document number, company code, and the creation date, and put it into a so-called repository. And now inside of this repository, we have all the purchasing document numbers from yesterday. And the same we do now also through the change documents, where we look which purchasing documents have been changed yesterday. And these purchasing document numbers, we also add to that repository. And now inside of this repository, we have every purchasing document number, which has been created or changed yesterday. And from this repository, we can now load also in parallel the different tables which have as a key field the purchasing document number, the company code, etc. So we load the full echo, the ECBE, the ECPO, etc., etc., etc. And with that, we can build our own delta logics. That also works similar for if you have some stuff only in the header tables, such as dates, which is not possible to filter on in the segment table. So for example, BKPF, we can filter on company code and the time period, but not the BSEG. And through such repositories, we can also do indirect filtering. And that gives us a very high performance because we only extract the data which is needed without needing to configure how we define what was added on the database level.
It's very interesting. These packages, or especially these intricacies of or dependencies between tables, is that something which you also ship with the product, or which customers can buy in addition from you?
So we have a lot of services where we can help customers to buy. We have some quick start packages, let's call it like this. It depends always a little bit on what you want to actually do with it. But the good thing is you can import and export packages. So everything you have built, you can also ship to other people, copy paste. So that also works for consultancy companies who help you with building this and all that stuff. And also, we are not just delivering, or it is also possible to get like more than just the extraction. We have end-to-end so-called data products, for example, where for purchase to pay, you get in the end a table with all purchasing documents and all the corresponding information with all accounts payable, with all vendor information, etc., etc. So if you want to build, for example, from your own dashboarding, your Power BI solutions on top of this, we can also leave out the whole stuff of defining packages and just say, I want a data product in Fabric. This is also possible.
Interesting. Very nice.
Cool. No, this looks really great. And you already said you even have some customers already using this, even in the RISE context as well.
Correct. We have a lot of customers, very large ones. You are using our extraction tools for years and years and years. And now, as also Fabric becomes more and more important for a lot of customers, they are also taking now their solution, which they are using to connect also to Fabric. And there we are doing at the moment the first tests and the first POCs to show that it's also possible to get it quickly on Fabric.
That's maybe also a call to action, or maybe if anyone who's listening to this podcast is interested, of course, feel free to reach out to us, either Philip or maybe also to me or Holger. Maybe you can forward this if you get any information of that sort, or any request of that sort. We're happy to collaborate with any customer who's interested in such solutions, right? We, from the Microsoft perspective, serving as the platform, Philip kind of responsible for the specific open mirroring implementation. We are fully committed to onboard new customers and make new customers successful.
Correct. And as Fabric customers usually come from out of IT plus SAP basis, I would say it's possible to get this up and running in less than a week. So we just need to send the requirements. Then it's one meeting with the right people, and then usually try out and get your first data into the Fabric environment, and from then the possibilities are countless.
Perfect. Philip, thank you so much for being the first partner here to talk about this kind of integration. I think it was really fantastic, and we'll put a lot of links in the show notes as well for people to follow up. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invitation. And yeah, it's a great podcast. So whenever I need some information, I tend to look up there quite some stuff. So thanks for inviting me here.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, now that we saw the solution from DAB, let's switch over to our next partner. Walid and Robert from Simplement are here with us today as well. So Walid, Robert, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself and then show us your solution.
You bet. So I'm Robert MacLean. Everybody calls me Mac. I've been working in SAP since '94, and the first systems that I installed were on SQL Server on SQL 6. And it's just been quite a journey with Microsoft through all the BI. And now here we are with Fabric, where we have real open standards and the ability to handle massive amounts of data and to feed that SAP data in a manner that is consumable by the customer. And so our name is Simplement, and we're about simplification to make it easier for our joint customers to go ahead and use that data. And my colleague Walid is here. I'm in Arizona in the mountains where it's very cold, and Walid is where it's very warm in Cairo. So Walid.
Yep. Thank you, Mac. So hello, everyone. Walid Darwish. I am Simplement's EMEA Tech Sales Manager. I came to Simplement from Microsoft, actually. So I used to be a Microsoft STU member before making the jump to Simplement. Have been with Simplement for more or less 6 years now, and super excited to talk to you about our solution, Roundhouse, and how it integrates with Fabric through the open mirroring, which has been a lifesaver, to be honest, because the previous integration before that was a little clunky. It was efficient, but there were many moving pieces, and now it's significantly simpler.
Fantastic. Then let's take a look.
Absolutely.
Walid, have at it. And I'll tell you, Walid was not who I thought I would find in Morocco, is where we met on a project. So it's a great testament to Morocco. So go ahead, Walid.
All right. So let me share my screen and let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
So very briefly to introduce the solution itself, Roundhouse is, in a sentence, an SAP certified, fully integrated data capture solution for HANA and ECC, right? This is the flagship solution that we are currently using for data replication and enhancement and transformation. We used to follow other approaches in the past, but like this has been kind of rebuilt and redeveloped. We're using modern technologies and tools within maybe the last 2 to 3 years, right? So one great major piece that we think about when we're building this solution and when we're building the features of it is how do we make the SAP data consumption and transformations to make it as simple as possible for the business user to consume that data, right? Obviously, from our name, Simplement, we try to make everything simple. And also because from our team, within our team, we have business consultants that are ex-SAP users. We have SAP, we have product engineers that have worked with SAP data extensively throughout the years. So a big focus on our product is how to simplify the SAP data complexity and how to make it as simple as possible for the end users to consume that data, right?
And I think, Walid, an important thing here, even though it says Fortune 100, yes, we have people in the Fortune 25 that use our product globally, but we also scale down to regional companies and small companies. We support every version other than MaxDB that's coming, but even including DB2 on the AS400. We handle all of them. And as long as there's an ABAP stack, we can handle it. So even past ECC, if you have other systems like CAR, etc., we can go ahead and handle those as well. So why don't you show us a little bit, Walid, about the architecture, and we'll move on and show how it works.
Yep, absolutely. So this is a little bit of a high-level architecture that illustrates the main blocks of the Roundhouse solution, right? So as Mac mentioned, because we integrate with the SAP environment through the ABAP layer. So we have an ABAP
Mm-hmm.
add-on that basically gets deployed within the SAP system that provides the connectivity to the Roundhouse application that basically is deployed external to SAP, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do have a couple of RFC destinations that get defined in order to provide the connectivity. But other than that, most of the heavy lifting and all the work and the processing is happening on the Roundhouse side. One of the core pillars that we very strongly believe in and stick to is that we want to minimize the load and the processing impact that we put on the SAP system to the absolute minimum. We recognize the importance of the SAP system, and we recognize that if this is affected in any way, then this means significant issues and hardship for the customer. So that's a pretty essential pillar that we try to stick to, is that we want to offload whatever we can to be processed outside of SAP. We will do that.
And I think it's important to note that the only time a logon to SAP is required is during the installation of the add-on. After that, all interaction is handled through Roundhouse. So you can view the job logs in SAP, etc., but you don't need to be an SAP user. We don't need to give basis access to people who are really more on the BI side of the organization. And so this has very limited surface area between SAP and Simplement. It's all encrypted, etc. So it's a very clean implementation.
So this Simplement Roundhouse component, which you're showing here, that's a Windows-based application which is standing next to the SAP system, right?
Well, actually, yeah. So go ahead.
So, yeah, it's actually a set of containers that we deploy. So instead of building it as like a platform-dependent application, we build it using containerization, so that it makes it easy to deploy, whether we want to deploy on a Docker-based environment, we want to deploy on a container service. It makes the deployment and update process significantly simpler than if it was like a full like consolidated monolithic application.
And we developed Microsoft/Azure first. The underlying architecture is almost all in C#. Because it's containerized, we can go ahead and put it into AKS, etc. And run
I was
it
just
that
going
way.
to ask. Exactly. So and I think that might be actually really cool. If we have, again, customers running their SAP system on Azure, for example, you could deploy the Roundhouse application on AKS, which means that could be deployed in the very same network. So also from an RFC access perspective, that should be very seamless. Really nice.
You obviously listen to our internal discussions, because that's exactly the plan.
All right, cool.
So can you show us how the Roundhouse application looks like, or what the flow looks like?
Absolutely. So let me switch to my demo environment. So just give me a second to bring it on the screen, and then I will restart the share.
And I'll say that a lot of this was driven by our customer requirements over the years. We've been doing this since 2007 with Microsoft, 2008. Started in Chicago, primarily with SQL Server and SQL Server 2008. And so over the years, we've accumulated a lot of requirements, and we've incorporated those into the product. And we always look at, as Walid already said, low impact on SAP, secure, fast, easy to use. If you don't have those, you have nothing. And we do come from a enterprise software background. I actually used to work for one of Hasso Plattner's companies, and so we got that drilled into us pretty well. So here we go, Walid. Looks good.
Yep, there we go. So I assume you can see my screen well.
Yes.
Basically, what you see here is the user interface for Roundhouse. As you can see, it's basically a web UI. So as Mac was mentioning earlier, the only time that you actually need to use the SAP GUI when it relates to Roundhouse is when you're doing the initial basis configuration and add-on deployment, right? Afterwards, the whole solution can be piloted from this user interface. Of course, we do also provide some additional capabilities to administer and to modify from SAP, but this is meant to be used as a fallback if the web UI is not available for any reason. So as you can see, the grid is basically displaying the tables that are under application, and the columns are the various targets that we can replicate the data into. For the purposes of our discussion today, this particular target is going to be the one of interest, the Fabric mirroring target. So just to get an idea of what it looks like to replicate a table, we will start by finding the table that we want to replicate, choose the particular configuration that we want, and then we can go ahead and do the initial snapshot. So if I know the table name that I want to replicate, I can go ahead and put it in, and it will load the tables and the columns that are related to it. If I don't know the table name, we have a find dialog that allows us to basically search for that table.
By this, you would then call an RFC that is configured and fetch the live data from the SAP system, fetch the tables, and then you get a representation here. But you don't need to go back to the SAP system, actually, but you can do everything here.
Exactly.
Correct.
Everything can be done from this web UI, right? And this web UI can be communicating with the add-on behind the scenes to retrieve some of this information. Like, as you can see, we're, for example, getting the text descriptions for every table and every column. These are extracted from your own system. So it uses your own descriptions, the language of preference that you would indicate, because it's using your metadata, so it works for Z tables, Z columns, etc.
Nice.
And we're able to basically adapt to whatever the configuration within your system is. So now that I've loaded the table, I have the option to select or deselect any particular columns I want to include or exclude in my application, right? And I also get the ability to provide basically SQL-like filters that can exclude some particular rows from the application, right? Like, for example, if I want to limit my sales data to be greater than 2024, right? So anything that is within 2024 onwards, I can include that. Okay? So this basically allows us to really narrow down the subset of data that we want to replicate, whether the tables, the columns, or the rows. So
a very common application of that is, like, for instance, have companies that want to segregate by company code, and they may have different targets. Or so we have shared services where they do that. So it's a very handy thing. Also, in that find dialog, we're able to search by SAP application area. So you can say PUR, just show me all the tables in there. You're going to get the EK series of tables. So if you don't really know what you're looking for, it can help you navigate that catalog without, again, having to be logged into SAP and trying to go through SE11 or something. So it keeps it very clean.
Right. So the next step, once I've saved the configuration, I'm going to initialize the replication for the table. And typically we require very few decisions here. The first decision is whether you want to enable CDC, right? As opposed to, like, if I don't enable that, then it would be a one-time copy of the data. The second decision is which target do I want to load the data into? And for this demo, I'm going to choose the Fabric mirror. And typically that would be it, right? For the vast majority of tables, you don't really need to make any extra decisions.
Exactly. What's nice here is that if you're not an advanced user, the default selections will all work. You're never going to come in here and have it just not go. It may go a little slower, but it will work. So there's nothing mandatory that you change, but if you understand what's going on, there are things that you can adjust and substantially improve the performance with parallelization and the batch size, and it's very tunable.
Exactly. So yeah, especially for large tables, we provide the option to basically split the table into multiple pieces and then control how many pieces are being loaded in parallel and all this kind of stuff. And all of that is happening implicitly. All the user needs to define is just literally those two parameters, how many pieces and how many to run in parallel. So we will proceed with this, and we will see now that we are now going to be connecting to SAP, retrieving the tables, retrieving the information, being used in our internal messaging queue. And if I just simply scroll to the right here a little bit, we're going to see that it is being written into the Fabric mirror. right?
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
see
Awesome.
the first table was quite speedy, right? And the second table is now following suit.
I think on the previous screen, you also had some scheduling options available, right? I think we didn't discuss that, but that's basically where you would configure the latency for your change data capture, I assume. How often the
Yes.
process runs to fetch the changes,
So
right?
for instance, you may have like T tables and things that you say, I only need to update those periodically. And so those will just re-snapshot. They're small. And because some customers prefer that. Again, it's one of these things that was customer driven. People say, you know what? I've got all my config tables. We do a, once a month, we go ahead and push all of our config changes. Let's just refresh them then and not have there's no need to have a real CDC running. So we have that option.
Okay. So for
Yeah.
CDC, you would not even need that configuration, you're saying? Is that right?
Correct. So with CDC,
Yeah, okay.
there are settings that we can do as far as it either says X rows accumulated in SAP or time has passed. And so
Okay.
that can be configured because there are optimal settings for that, for
Okay.
sure. We try to make the program so that it is not extremely chatty in SAP. Contrast in SLT, you'll see that it's constantly polling that table, 1,000 times a second. We're a little more clever than that. So, oh wow, this looks like Fabric.
So now that we have our table loaded, I can switch over to the Fabric side, and we see that the first table has been detected by the mirroring engine, and the rows are being read into the Fabric mirror. Within a matter of seconds, this should reflect the total amount of rows. We see also that VBAP was also detected with its equivalent amount of rows as well. And basically the data is now available. So if I switch over to this view, right, I can refresh my tables. This is basically the SQL endpoint for Fabric. So I'm connected through SSMS just for the sake of efficiency. We see that our tables are available and we can go ahead and view its data. Right, okay. Maybe. And there we go.
Nice.
Right, so maybe I can zoom in a little bit just to show like how the data would look like. And you can see that, again, like some of the columns, we do some inline transformations to just make it simpler and easier to work with. But overall, this is the view of the data that you would see within SAP, right? If you go into this table through something like SE16, for example, you would see this pretty much the identical view. But we can go.
So I saw that for dates and time fields, you actually you add some transformed column, right, with more of a standard.
Absolutely, true dates and true times.
Yeah.
And now I think this is what's great is that because of the way Fabric is organized now, that we're able to also execute SQL subsequent and create these views that Walid's going to show that have the friendly names. We can generate these in any language that's in the customer system. So this is based on I mean, believe it or not, I've had customers who have changed delivered names in SAP tables, right? They've gotten a key and done it, and we reflect that. So whatever you call it, so we maintain the SAP column name for kind of a lineage thing, but then we have the actual description that's within SAP, and that happens automatically. And so we call these Buena Vistas, which is Spanish for a nice view.
And we also provide the ability to override these default names if the customer wants to provide their own naming. Or, for example, if the customer started using our solution on an old version and then an SAP update changes the descriptions very slightly, which can be like a minor change, but it would still break the downstream consumption, right? So we provide the ability to fix the names as the customer requires in order to maintain basically all the downstream consumption assets.
And along with this, one of the things we're working now with Fabric and in our push to AI is the generating better synonyms. So for for like Copilot and things for querying that we are putting in, for instance, like you'll have like sales document item, and it'll say, the automatic thing will say, oh, sales, and it'll say paper thing, basically, for the synonym. And so we'll put in things that will then make sense so that contextually, when you use AI and do ML, that you actually get results that are relevant for the domain you're in.
Nice.
Oh, really impressive. We started from nothing basically, and within a few clicks, you have now the data from the SAP system here in Fabric. Really nice.
Yep.
And now I guess if there would be changes now in the SAP system, if I do an update, these updates would also be, or can also be then reflected here in Fabric immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So if you have, like, if we have a couple of minutes, I can show you this process, like, in real time.
Yeah, why don't you show it, and then if it's a little too long, we can always. So why don't you just go and make a change in the sales order or whatever you do?
Yeah, exactly. So let me do the following. So select this and this, right? And then the order quantity, and I can also add the order value, right? Oops.
I think that, and this is the beauty of these Minivistas, is that somebody who's not just a complete SAP. I mean, you guys have an advantage because you understand the German abbreviations. The rest of the world does not. And so, and a lot of them are so close to each other that by being able to read, like he's assembling basically a view very quickly. That if I were trying to do it with just the raw SAP data or raw names, the technical names, it's very difficult. So fire away. There you go.
So yeah, so this is basically like a particular sales document where I've selected the order quantity and the total value. I am going now to change this particular sales order. So let me just scroll to here. And then from here, I'm going to open this same order, sales order 22. I am going to change this order quantity. Instead of 131, I will make it 2,000 pieces, right? So we had 131. The default the order value was 9,170. Going to change, save the update, right? We're going to see here that we have a change for this particular table that was captured.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. To VBAP, right? So now in this sales order, if I open it again, you should see that the total value now is 140,000 with 2,000 units, right? So I can come back to this SSMS UI, and then basically within a matter of like seconds, you should see that
it's. I will say too, one of the things we're working on now is anomaly detection, so that sales order, when that big change happens, this is some of the stuff with the Azure ML and things that we can be doing now, that we can be monitoring that stream in real time and say, wait a second, take a look. This guy has never ordered more than 300, and now it's 2,000. And now get a warning. And so that's some of the stuff that's coming in. We're so excited about this integrated environment. Before I have to go find something bolted on, have a program elsewhere that's coming in, reading the data. Good Lord, it gets complicated. It's going to break. And now I can go ahead and using those tools in Fabric, I can be monitoring this, finding anomalies and flagging it, and then pushing it off into a workflow like through Power Automate, whatever. So wow, Walid, that's cool.
Fantastic.
As you can see, the update has come through basically within under a minute from the change happening in SAP. It's already visible in Fabric, right? So this makes it very easy to develop like real-time reporting for stuff such as sales, such as inventory, such as basically any domain of SAP where you need to have up to the second information. This capability makes it extremely simple to do so.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And I think really what's amazing here too, that if you've been around, starting with Hadoop and then going up through Spark, et cetera, that the speed of this change, was 10 or 15 seconds is amazing that we can do in Fabric. Before these kinds of things, it was who knows how long, whatever. So this is really, I always say, if it changes faster than a cup of coffee, it's real time, and so, nobody works that fast at their desk, especially in my country, right? So,
Mac, Walid, thank you so much. This is really great.
You.
And the Roundhouse solution that is available today. So maybe we will also put in some links about the solution in the comments of this video or in the description of this video, so everyone can also take a look at that.
Absolutely. And it's simplement.us/fabric is where we're trying to build a community around this and have all things Fabric there with links to other things that we can do. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity. And
No problem.
Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Who's going to be in Vegas for FabricCon?
Ulrich.
Let's see. Probably I will be. But before we meet in Las Vegas, let's make sure that customers know that you're currently onboarding your first customers on that solution, right? So if anyone is interested, reach out to Mac, reach out to Walid, or reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with them.
Yes, thank you very much. You bet. We're excited.
Perfect.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.